God spoke to me in a dream. God was breaking my heart for what breaks his, and it was very intense.
But you're like, we're going to be the best diaper company in the world. We're going to build something as good or better than Yelp or Amazon. Did you ever have any inkling of that? Like a little premonition from God that I would be a businesswoman and my husband and I would be entrepreneurs?
We have one life. This is it. Let's leave the legacy that we want to leave behind us. Culture likes to say kids are just going to set you back and they're going to steal your dreams. My story's the complete opposite. My child literally made me dream so big so I could create something for her that one was good for her body, that celebrated.
At age 21, she found herself crying on the floor of her dorm room bathroom, wondering, who am I and who is God? Her wholehearted surrender to Jesus Christ would lead to marriage, motherhood, a new call to fight for life, and the building of several successful businesses. Welcome back to the Lila Rose Show. Today I sit down with Sarah Gabel, who dramatically gave her life to Jesus Christ in college, which changed everything for her. Sarah Gabel is a mother, a wife, an entrepreneur, and the founder of some companies that we love here on the show, including EveryLife and Public Square. In this conversation, we discuss spiritual entrepreneurship. We discuss the ups and downs of starting something big with a big vision, but not a lot of resources, motherhood, as well as being involved in business, marriage, and ultimately following God's call for our lives. Thank you so much to everyone who has been listening to the show. We are continuing to grow by leaps and bounds because of you. We just hit over 350,000 subs on YouTube. We're continuing to rank now in society and culture category over on podcast app. If you could please subscribe to the show, that helps the show grow. Leave us 5 stars and a review that also helps the show reach more people. And if you're here on YouTube, make sure that you like this video and subscribe. Sarah Gabel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love talking to you, so I'm excited to share you with the audience here. I'm very impressed by your family, first of all, what you guys have built. You're both very early 30s, hardly 30, and in your 20s, you've built a tremendously impactful company, multiple businesses that are, I think, leading in the conservative space. Public Square, EveryLife diapers. We love EveryLife on the show. My kids and my family uses it. But I think the story behind what you guys have built is so beautiful, and your story. So this is going to inspire you guys listening, okay? Especially if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, if you're a mom, if you want to be a mom one day, and you're also feeling called to business. Sarah, thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And it has been an incredible journey. And honestly, I go back to when I first came to know Christ in my heart and I accepted him as my Lord and Savior and went all in. And that was really in my early 20s before I had met Michael. And once I made that commitment to him, it was like my whole world turned around for the good. And I actually remember saying it felt like I was seeing colors for the first time. Everything was brighter. I had more vision as I started to walk with God intimately and give him all of my desires and hopes and dreams. And it was in that season that God started to actually show me. And I remember him saying, get ready to pack your bags because we're going to go on a ride together. And I got so excited for that. And in my head, I was picturing missionary work or traveling the world and just spending time with God intimately. And I had no idea at that time when I was 21 years old what was ahead. And I was about to meet my husband, Michael, and we were going to get married at a very young age and go on this journey that looked very different than what I ever would have imagined, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's been a grand adventure. And I know we'll get into all of that as we keep talking, but it was a pivotal time that I'm so thankful God prepared my heart for, because if he wouldn't have told me that at that time, it would have been a little more intimidating stepping into all of the things that he has called us to. And to be honest, it's just been out of divine obedience that we have said yes to all that he has called us into. And I'm so humbled, honestly, Lila, that I even get to do what I do every day. I count it as a privilege and a blessing. And every day I look to God and say, you know, if you have anything else for me, I always want to be listening and available to turn, because we all need to be in that place of surrender every day. But I get this deep, settled confidence every time I wake up and I look to him, and we keep walking and we just keep saying yes. And he's opened up door after door and closed many doors too. But all of it has been to say yes to him and for his glory. So I'm so honored to be here. You're a really big part of my journey as well, of how I even got into the pro-life movement. And It's been, like I said, an adventure that I wouldn't change for the world.
I love you bringing it back to that moment where you gave your life to Christ and it was total surrender. It sounds like you're like, God, whatever you want, here I am.
Yep.
And I think we can do that every day. Like no matter where you're at in your faith journey, even if you feel you have no faith, you can start today, say, Jesus, I trust in you. Here I am. Your will be done. Totally give your life to God. And he will take us on an adventure. So what you're saying resonates so deeply with me because it's been my experience of just when you say yes to God, what he can do.
That's right.
And it doesn't mean it's easy, but it means it's incredible.
That's right.
It's just this incredible journey. So there's a lot, I want to get into the journey and the ups and the downs of it. But I have a question before you said yes to Jesus and that totally changed your life. You would meet your husband, you would get married and now build and be on this crazy journey. We're going to talk about that journey, but what was Sarah like before, BC, before Jesus, before Christ?
Yep.
And how is she different today?
So growing up, I was raised in Birmingham, Alabama. And if you're familiar with the South, there's a church on every corner. So I went to church with my family and I had great, incredible, strong, faithful parents and 2 siblings. And honestly, my life was very blessed. I didn't have a ton of hardships, but internally for the longest time, I just didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I wanted to be. And I cared very deeply about what others thought of me. And so performance was something I really struggled with. I felt I needed to prove myself in any room that I was in to earn love and acceptance from those around me. And that led me into not making always the best decisions. And I definitely lived the life. If you actually look at, I love the book of James. There's a verse in there about how you can look at yourself in the mirror and you see one face and then you walk away and you totally forget what you look like. And I felt like that was my life. I'd wake up every day, I'd look at myself in the mirror, I'd walk away and then say, who am I going to be today? Am I going to be the fun, preppy girl? Am I going to be the one that's a little more cool and chill? Am I going to go to the party or am I going to say no and try to do the right Christian thing? And I couldn't quite figure it out. I couldn't ground my feet into a core belief system that I could live by and have a strong yes and have a strong no. And I struggled with that for years and years and years. And before I met Christ, I had this moment in college, and this really was my moment, my coming to Jesus moment, where again, I was faced with looking at myself in the mirror. And I had a long night of going out and having too much to drink and again, not making the best decisions and getting in the wrong crowd. And I just remember looking at myself and thinking, this is not who I want to be. This is not who I know I can be. And this isn't the woman that I know God wants me to be. And I remember getting on the floor, literally in my bathroom in college, and just crying out to God and just saying, God, I know you're real. I know you're there. I have a lot of head knowledge about you. I've opened your word. I know scripture is truth. I've been to church. I know what worship is. I know the songs, but there's 18 inches from your head to your heart. And it had never really hit my heart until that moment where I said, I'm not just going to believe. It's not just going to be something that I know in my brain, but I really want it to resonate in my heart and be so real to me that I can walk in freedom with God, that when I repent, that when I give my whole life over to him, he truly does wash us clean, white as snow, and he gives us a new start. And that's what's so amazing about walking with Jesus is you get this opportunity to start fresh and be renewed. And I got to do that with him sitting in my bathroom in college, and my whole life turned around. I changed my friend group. I broke up with the guy I was dating at the time. And I've always been one that's a little bit more black and white. I am either all in or kind of all out. That's been my personality most of my life, even when I was struggling with my identity and who I was. And so I went all in. And I became the person that I knew was inside of me. I just was burying it so deep. And I'm so grateful that God met me in that moment and I had this turning, and I've never looked back.
What a blessing. And it's so beautiful because you were raised in a Christian family. So you had met Jesus in the sense that I'm going to guess your family shared about the gospel
Absolutely.
with you. Jesus, you understood, it sounds like the Bible, there was head knowledge, but that wasn't a personal radical commitment in the depths of your soul to say yes to God, whatever he has for me. And it was also the world, right? The temptations of the world, which it's there for all of us.
Right.
It looks different for each person, but for a lot of young women, especially in college, it's like, okay, do you live this party life? Do you go out? Do you do things with boyfriends or mess around? Like, what does that look like? Or are you going to be clean? Are you going to say, no, I want to reject the ways of the world. I want to walk with God. And that is a black and a white thing.
It is.
Which is hard because the world is saying like, it's not a big deal. Just have fun, do these things. So, but it was you're willing to say, I want to follow you. And then your radical posture of your heart. I just want to be open to what God is going to do in my life, whatever that is. Okay. So how did you meet Michael? Your business partner, which I love, that your husband's your business partner.
So once I had this moment in my bathroom all alone in college, I started to look. I was ending my freshman year and I was approaching the summer. I was studying economics and business and real estate and wanted to have this grand internship, right, that would help me move forward towards the career that I had set for myself. And all of a sudden, I remember God reminding me of this camp that I went to with my dad when I was 15 years old. It's called JH Ranch. It's in the middle of nowhere, California, in a town called Etna. And it's the most beautiful place, not only from just the scenic views, but the heart of the ministry is all about the restoration of the family unit. So they have parents and teens, husbands and wives, newly engaged couples, student leadership programs where they all come out in the mountains. There's no cell service, so you're free from distractions. And the purpose is to get your relationship right with your Heavenly Father and then work on your relationships on earth and strengthen those so you leave feeling like you have the connections that we really need in life. And I had such an incredible time there with my dad. It was phenomenal. And I just remember the conversations we had. We talked about purity. We talked about our purpose and how a life not evaluated is a life not worth living. Socrates actually coined that, and it's so true. And I just started to recall these lessons that did hold true to my heart and stick. And I said, I want to go back to that place. And even if it means just serving my time out there as a college student and giving back to the ministry that had so blessed me and my family, I want to do it. So I went, I applied, and I got accepted, praise God. And I got to spend a whole summer out at JH Ranch just serving and loving on the parents and teens that were out there. And it was phenomenal. And I met Michael out there, and we were best friends, actually. It was really a wonderful way to start a relationship because we were in ministry together and we were watching parents and teens get healed and relationships be restored. So we were just seeing miracles happen all around us. And it was a beautiful summer. And I actually remember telling him, I really looked up to him. He's a year younger than me, but he was so mature and so different than any man I had ever met. And I just remember telling him, Michael, whoever you marry one day is going to be the luckiest girl in the world. I told him that.
That's so cute.
And I really, truly, I meant it with all of my heart because I saw him again more as like a mentor and kind of a leader because he had been walking with God a little bit longer and just had so much depth and so much knowledge that I just wanted to pull from every chance I could get. And then a year later, God changed. They say at JH Ranch, they actually call it Just Hitched Ranch as a joke.
Classic.
Because a lot of college students who all love the Lord and are passionate are coming together in a very beautiful place, kind of a little bubble. And a lot of marriages actually do come out of JH Ranch. And they say you can fall in like there, but you can't fall in love. And so we kind of fell in like with each other. And then afterwards, we got to know each other outside of the bubble and that wonderful environment. And we fell in love. And it was pretty quick. We got married at 22 and 21.
Beautiful. Did you have a sense when you met him? This is someone, I mean, you're talking about him being a woman being blessed who would marry him. I'm sure it crossed your mind like he'd be a great.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you were just trying to respect the JH rules of like, we don't date during the summer program.
And I think I was a little, he intimidated me a little bit because like I mentioned, I'd never met anybody that was so full of faith and so full of conviction. And he was just different. And I remember being a little afraid of what it would look like to be in a relationship with someone like that. Because I had kind of been more of the leader in the relationships previously that I had been in. And I knew that he was different and it would look very different. And we had such a beautiful friendship that I didn't want to harm that relationship either. But I remember feeling a shift in our relationship one of the summers we were out there. And I knew that he had changed his views on me just being a friend. And I started to notice, and I just went to God one morning and prayed and said, God, if this is you, and if this is the relationship you want me to step into, then I'm just going to trust you with it. And it's a little scary. It's a little uncomfortable. I'm young. This isn't what I thought my life would look like at this stage, but I'm going to just walk with you. And I remember after I prayed that surrender prayer, I saw him that morning and my heart like sunk, and I got nervous and I had butterflies. Like I felt like a little girl in middle school. And I remember thinking, God just tore the veil. It's like I was seeing him for the first time. So it was a really divine story of God just making it very known he was the person that I was going to I knew in that moment he was going to be the person I'd spend the rest of my life with. So,
all right, I have to ask, I know he's not here to tell his side of the story, but do you know what his experience was? Was he also having a sense of God saying, Sarah is for you?
He was. Yeah. And it happened
You're
for
so
him.
lovely, Sarah. I'm sure he's like,
so sweet.
And she's telling me I'd make a good husband. I'm like, for you, Sarah, but I'm not allowed to say that yet.
Yeah, I do think that it happened for him a few months prior. And he knew that God absolutely spoke to him, and kind of the same experience. Like I walked out and he just kind of saw me differently. And,
wow.
But it just happened for him at an earlier stage, but I was pretty quickly after that.
Was his prayer or was your prayer intentionally, God, give me the eyes to see the person you have planned for me?
Yeah, my whole life. And I know my parents, that was their prayer too. So even go back to just the power of prayer, the generational prayers, right? That are so powerful. And then they all come to life in one moment, and you just see God's hand every step of the way. And we actually were in multiple environments leading up to JH Ranch that summer where we could have met each other. He actually went to JH Ranch at 15 as well with his dad, but I never met him at that program. He went to the University of Alabama where I graduated, and we were in the same kind of friend group. We never met each other, but it was God's perfect timing. And I'm so grateful for that because it was the right time for us to meet. And he was going to be the person that I got to go on this grand adventure with. And like I said, it wasn't what I envisioned for my life. I kind of had a little bit, Lila, of the buying the lie at an early age of career first, go make yourself known and be able to supply for yourself financially. And I thought I would get married when I was 30. I mean, that's kind of how I pictured my life. So when I say that drastic turning of, you asked who I was before Jesus and who I was after, I mean, my friends didn't even recognize me because I just was talking different and I was seeing life different. And now I had this man in my life that I was ready to marry, and they're like, wait, you were saying you wanted to get married when you were 30, and now you're 21 and ready to jump into that in this early stage of your life. And I just said, yeah, I just knew. And like I said, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that God turned my heart, because I think that getting married young, and I know everyone's story is so different, but I will say I look back and I would wish that for anybody, to be able to do life in companionship with your best friend, going through the first ever apartment purchase together in LA and navigating what jobs we're going to, pursue, and just praying together as best friends and a couple. Man, that was some of the best times of our relationship, was right after we got married and we were just trying to figure it out together.
A huge thank you to our sponsor, We Heart Nutrition. We Heart Nutrition is America's premier pro-life, family-owned supplement company. These supplements are made in their most bioavailable form for your body for easy absorption and digestion. When I remember to take my vitamins, I feel it. I feel less brain fog, especially when I take the magnesium supplement. And when I forget to take my vitamins, I feel it. And they have a new product over at We Heart Nutrition that I'm excited about. If you know somebody who is concerned about their bone density or their bone health, there's a specific product for your bone health. It's for men and women ages 40 and older. Go to weheartnutrition.com right now and take their 20-second survey to find out the best supplement package for you that is specialized for wherever you are in your life, wherever you are with your health. That's weheartnutrition.com. Use the code Lila at checkout for a full 20% off your order.
As you may know, porn addiction is on the rise for both women and men today. The porn industry is a billion-dollar industry preying off of vulnerable men and women. The good news is that there is a solution, and our show is proud to partner with CovenantEyes.com. CovenantEyes.com is not only something to block explicit material on your phone, your tablet, or your laptop, but CovenantEyes.com is also a community to give you strength to choose good things instead of to choose the destruction of porn. Whether you're a parent protecting your kids, a husband searching for accountability, or a wife searching for accountability, or somebody who just wants to make sure that porn doesn't make it onto your screen, CovenantEyes.com has got you covered. So you can go to CovenantEyes.com and get a free 30-day trial using the code Lila. That's CovenantEyes.com. Use the code Lila for a free 30-day trial. Start your journey to freedom today.
EveryLife.com is America's pro-life baby diaper and wipes company. I love EveryLife.com, and I use EveryLife diapers and wipes for my little ones because these are a best-in-class product that are clean. There's no harmful dyes or fragrances or phthalates in this product. It is designed to be healthy for your little one and good for your little one's skin. If you go to EveryLife.com/join today, by joining the Changing Lives Club, you not only get 10% off your monthly diaper and wipe subscription, in addition to that, you'll get a free tote bag, and EveryLife.com will donate a box of diapers and wipes to a mother and baby in need. That's everylife.com/join. Use the code Lila. What you've done in your 20s and the last several years, I mean, you're obviously raising your family. Most importantly, you've got a beautiful little girl and you've got a second one on the way. By the way, big shout out to you for making it here.
So glad.
Sarah is about to deliver this beautiful baby in a few weeks.
That's right.
And I think there's so many themes here that I want to explore because they are very, I think, confused today, quite frankly. Women in work and motherhood and marriage, what that looks like. Oh, we reject modern feminism, of course, because modern feminism is about abortion, gender ideology, all of these things. But what is the core of what God has for women, the principles, and then it looks different for individual women. And what does that all mean? And then obviously building a really mission-driven business that's been very, I think, effective and influential in a worldly sense, in a good way. Because I think there's also a tendency with a lot of Christians to kind of try to stay in the Christian bubble. And we're sometimes afraid of building things that can compete, you know, with the world and be basically the new institutions in the world. And I think that's been very much the mission I've seen is like you're unapologetic about your values and your mission, but you're like, we're going to be the best diaper company in the world. Mm-hmm. We're going to build, you know, something as good or better than Yelp or Amazon or different, you know, variations of the two and the other initiatives you guys have. And we're going to, you know, be on the New York Stock Exchange and be a publicly traded company and do all these things. I mean, it's big thinking, right? Which I love, but it's grounded in the foundations of faith and truth. So anyways, lots of places to go, but let's go back to the early years because you were on this new mission. You have this husband. You weren't expecting to do this, but God's just doing this amazing thing in your life. What was preparing you at that time, mindset-wise and heart-wise, for the road that God was going to lead you on with building these businesses and having the influence you all have had, both in politics and culture? What were the early lessons that you learned? And the formation that you received.
Yeah. And we started, like I mentioned, in LA, and we got to be a part of church planting. And I actually think that was a beautiful way to start anybody who is wondering, what should I do right out of college? And maybe they're lost. I think serving your local church is one of the best places to dive in, to grow in your relationship, obviously with the Lord, but see God work in the church. And that was a really humbling and beautiful growing season. And actually, the church that we worked for in LA, I thought we were going there to minister to the non-believers in Manhattan Beach, where we were kind of located.
What year was that?
This was in 2017, 2018. Okay. So in that area, most are non-believers. I think it's 8 and 10. Most are not following Christ. And that was what we thought our time was going to be, you know, spent doing is helping the community around us. But we learned really quickly that it was actually the church that we were meant to minister to, because we just had some different belief systems and ways of seeing things. And that was a really beautiful time for us to even dig deeper as a couple and say, well, God, who do we know you to be? And what does your scripture say? So I remember there was multiple nights of us just opening up God's word and just reading his scripture and saying, okay, this is what he says, and this is how we see it. And let's just pray for God to continuously reveal his ways and his workings, especially when we're with other believers that might not see it the same way. It was a very interesting time, and I'm so thankful for it because it tested my faith and it made me actually get uncomfortable and have some hard conversations about what I know is true and hear other sides and just have some really good, healthy debates. And I think we're also missing that in society today too, is just good dialogue and hearing both sides of the aisle and learning how to have productive conversations. So that was a really big lesson learned, was just rooting myself in my faith and doing that alongside my husband. I also think that in that time, we became one. God says, become fruitful and multiply, and to get married and become one. And I was young and I was used to being under my father's covering, and I had a very beautiful relationship and close relationship with my dad, but I had to learn what it looked like to now have another man in my life that I leaned on, that was the leader in the household, and what it looked like to serve him and to love him and to listen to him and be led by him. And that was beautiful. So I look back on all of these lessons that really were foundational, that allowed us to be able to be in a place to hear from God, to get a different direction. We weren't thinking that politics and culture and the pro-life movement in our early 20s was going to be the direction we went. We were, again, planting churches. I was in the nonprofit sector for a very long time. And it was 2019 that there was a really big change for me personally, and honestly, my husband too. It kind of all collided at the same time. His passions started to shift and change a little bit, and mine too. And God spoke to me in a dream in the night, which I can share about.
Please do. We'd love to hear it.
It was a very, I can remember it like it was yesterday, but it was early in the year in January, and we were living in our tiny little spot, and I woke up in tears. I was almost panicking because it felt so real. But inside of this dream that I was having in the night, I was seeing this war happening outside, and it was very vivid. And I remember thinking, okay, I need to go get help because this is getting out of control, and there's got to be somebody that can help bring some peace here. So I ran into what I thought looked like a big factory building, and I went down to the bottom floor, and everybody was sitting there just drinking their drinks and watching the news and laughing. And while this war is taking place outside, and I'm panicking, thinking, guys, we need to snap out of this. We need to go figure out a plan so we can stop what's happening. And I remember there was this little boy who tugged on my dress, and he couldn't talk yet, but he pointed to go upstairs of this factory building. And so I walked with him, and we went upstairs. All of a sudden, everything turned into large glass windows, and I could see in, but there was no door, so I couldn't get inside. But I couldn't figure out at first what was happening. It was very sterile, fluorescent lights, so it was just not a welcoming place. And there was a bunch of people in white coats that I then learned were doctors, and women just laying on the table to have procedures done. And again, couldn't quite figure out what was happening, to then see lining all the ways down. And again, the room almost opened up for miles, and it was just empty cribs. And I was thinking, that's odd. Like, why are all these cribs here, but there's no babies in it? And then I started to realize that all of these doctors were performing abortions on these women. And they were almost like robots, very robotic. No one was talking to each other. So there was no dialogue. They were just laying on the table, doing the procedure, getting up and leaving. But you could see the heartbreak and just the darkness that hovered over this bright room. And the little boy, I'll never forget, he looked at me, and he didn't say it, but it was almost like he was saying, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to get in there and help these moms and these babies live? And I started hitting on the glass as hard as I could to break in, and I couldn't get in. And that's when I woke up, and I was sweating and, like I said, crying. And I turned to my husband. I'm like, Michael, I got to tell you about this dream I just had. The craziest part is, as soon as I was finished explaining what had just happened in my dream, he opened up his phone And you know how whatever you were looking at the night before, sometimes it'll just pop back up. He was on Facebook and this article came up right away on Facebook. And it said, urgent prophetic dream, save my babies or let my babies go. And he clicked on it and he started reading this article. And there was a pastor named Jeremiah Johnson back in 2016 after Obama was elected who had almost the exact same dream that I had. And it was all about God opening up his eyes to the reality of abortion and the fact that this is just on God's heart. And he's turning and he's awakening his people to see the fact that this is the silent killer, that there's thousands of kids every day in America, as you know, you preach it all the time, that are not living because of this atrocity. And I thought, God, you are speaking to me, and it's very clear. I also had just gone through a season in 2018 where I was actually praying for God to speak to me in the night. If you actually read in Psalms, David, there's a verse where he says, even when I wait, God, I still want to hear from you. Something along those lines. And it got me thinking, okay, that's interesting. That means that when David is sleeping, he's yearning to hear from God, and when he wakes, he still wants to be able to hear from God. So God is speaking to him in his sleep. And I just remember that standing out to me. And I was like, I'm going to pray like David and just pray God will start speaking to me in the night. It's 8 hours sometimes of sleep. Why not? Wouldn't it be great to hear from you in those hours? So that was an answered prayer too, that I went through months and months of praying for that specifically. And then he gave me this dream. And I knew in that moment, Lila, that the rest of my life had to be doing something to fight for God's children. I mean, there was nothing in me. It's like God just lit a fire in me that could not burn out. And I spent an entire year in prayer. That's all, because I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what it meant. Abortion was not on my mind. I didn't have the education. I didn't have the awareness. I had so much to learn about it. But I knew how to pray. And so I would just pray on my knees. Sometimes I couldn't sleep at night because God was breaking my heart for what breaks his. And it was very intense, but it was a beautiful year of me just asking God to save these babies that I didn't even know, and to help these moms, and to feel connected to these women that I, again, don't even know, but he was doing something. And that led me into getting into the pro-life movement, and Live Action and your voice and your influence was so key in helping me understand where to get started and how to learn. And I'm so thankful for that year of prayer, because I know that was pivotal for just where I am even now. I look back on it often.
It gives me chills listening to you, Sarah, and it also gives me so much encouragement. I was in LA in 2019. My husband and I were newlyweds, and I think one prayer I've had, and it reminds me to pray more for this, and we can pray for this together, is that more people's hearts are broken for these children that are voiceless, and for the mothers and the families, but the babies that have no voice. Right. And like God's gift to you in breaking your heart through a dream. Yeah. And you were open to him already. You were saying, God, whatever you want, which is so beautiful, a beautiful posture. But God will do the work in the pro-life movement, even when we don't know exactly how to solve this huge, sometimes seemingly insurmountable crisis, right? That is abortion in this country and globally. And so I love it. It reminds me, and I want to ask people listening to pray that our hearts can be broken as God wants them to break, so that we can get involved, to get in the fight, and also pray for other hearts, and that God can use a dream. I mean, God can do anything. That's right. And how beautiful that he spoke to you this way, and then that you responded. So I know you worked at a pregnancy center. I
did.
And I also obviously want to get into the founding of Public Store and EveryLife. So, and also thank you for, I know you said this earlier, but thank you for listening to the show in 2019.
I was your first listener.
Thank you.
100%. Like you said, maybe me and your mom. I was so thrilled after looking at your website and just gaining all the knowledge that I got from that alone. And then when you launched your podcast, and it's funny, I was like, I wonder if she would ever do that, because she has so much information, and I would love to be able to gain more insights from your experience and your voice. And so I was truly your biggest fan in the mountains of California and Etna. I was over there walking around listening to your podcast on repeat, just learning and growing. And I'm so thankful that you said yes to that, because I don't know what that journey was like for you. I'm sure that was a whole stepping out in faith and trying something new, and came with all kinds of experiences. But I'm so thankful you said yes to that, because I really don't know where I would have gone if I didn't have the resource of live action and your podcast in that 2019 time.
That gives me so much encouragement, because I was filming that podcast. It was before video. It was just audio with this Yeti mic in my closet.
I love it.
During the pandemic, and it was only like 20 episodes, and then we took a break, and then we got back into it. Now we're doing like the real show, the big show. But before it was just this, but it was obedience. It was just this burning thing of like the Lord just like, give it a shot. I know you have all these things about fears, concerns, questions. Just get out there and do it. Get out there and try.
Yep.
And God can do so much with our willingness to just try.
Amen.
Even though we are so limited and imperfect and finite, God can do anything with that yes. So then what was it like to get into pro-life work? And then how did that lead to Public Square, EveryLife, and everything you're doing today?
So like I mentioned, I went through that time of very intimate prayer, and I knew that was my first step. And I actually had a lot of peace just learning, right? And understanding the issue of abortion and trying to become almost an expert on the topic as much as I could. I knew that's where I needed to start. And then I moved into activation, because normally when God reveals something, I would say this to anybody, there's a reason he's pointing something out, whether it be a frustration or something as vivid as my dream. There's a reason he's highlighting it to you. And sometimes it means starting with prayer, but it normally results in activation and being a part of the solution. There was a reason God was showing this to me, because it wasn't just meant for me to keep in my little heart and bubble. And trust me, I kind of wanted to stay in it, because it was a beautiful place that I was in of just praying for these moms and these babies. But I knew God said there's more. And I hit this moment at the end of 2019 where I said, I have to be a part. I need to get involved in the pro-life movement in some form or fashion. So that's what led me into discovering what a pregnancy resource center was. I didn't even know what a pregnancy resource center was. And again, I'm from the South. Was raised in a Christian home, but I was not exposed to the pro-life movement. I didn't even know that language. That language didn't even resonate to me at the time. And so I had a lot to learn about what a pregnancy resource centers do. And as I dove into what they provide to women and how they're on the front lines, literally talking to these abortion vulnerable minded women, I got so fired up and excited. So there was a job opening at a pregnancy resource center in San Clemente. I applied out of faith and I got the job, and I jumped right in, and that was in 2020. So it was an interesting year to get started, because we hit COVID pretty quickly after I had just started. And the executive director at the time had a lot of health issues, and she really wasn't able to come into the center. So I ended up really having almost like baptism by fire sort of experience, where I had only been working and in training for a little bit. And then there I was in a room with an abortion-minded woman and counseling her through her decision-making way sooner than I would have ever imagined. But I'm so thankful that God just threw me in the room, and I got to learn about what these women are going through firsthand. I'd read about it for a year, and then to see it in real life, it was amazing to see God move in that little counseling room and in the ultrasound room. And I learned that asking really good questions, honestly, how Jesus did with his disciples. He actually told Peter, "Who do you say that I am?" And he did that on purpose, because he wanted Peter to have that revelation and his own light bulb moment of understanding who Jesus is to him. And I took that practice of good question asking and brought it into the counseling room. And I just watched these girls open up and start talking about their dreams and their desires. And, what do you want to do in a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And it was amazing, the information they would share with you. If you just listen and love and are there to come alongside them, it's amazing what can come out of those conversations. And Planned Parenthood, I can promise you, as you know, are not taking an interest in their life beyond that moment of a life or death decision. But that was what we were trying to do in those rooms. And I saw miracle after miracle after miracle, baby saved after baby saved after baby saved. I mean, the first time I ever got to hold the baby, that I got to walk with a woman to literally at the point where she said, I'm 100% getting an abortion, to then 9 months later holding that child, I'll just never forget those times that I had. And I'm so thankful for them, because it's really what got me into even where I am now, and a heart for what they're walking through, which I think is so important. It's so important to understand that these women, they need Jesus, they need love, they need care. And God softened my heart that year that I got to minister to those women and hear their stories. And it built my heart for the pro-life movement even more.
I get teary-eyed hearing from you share that and imagining that baby that you held.
Yeah. It was amazing.
It's just amazing. And that your ability to show up for that woman and help her choose life and be there for her and her now newborn baby was because of a dream that God gave you in the night.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's awesome. It's
and
amazing.
I'm so thankful. And I just remember sitting there thinking, God, this is what you created me for. And I would have never known that even a year before. I was sitting in that counseling room starting to talk to these women considering abortion or life. And it's like I was made for that moment. And that's how amazing God is and how he works. Like when we say yes to him, when we're obedient to him, he's going to show you so much about him and his nature, but then you're going to get to learn so much about how he created you as an individual. And I remember saying things and getting into conversations. I mean, I met with witches. I met with all kinds of people with backgrounds. I mean, drug addictions, depression, some really heavy situations. And
coming to the pregnancy center.
Yeah. Right here in Orange County, you'd be shocked. And I just remember sitting there thinking, I didn't even know, God, that you could come in and use me out of all the people in the world. Like, you don't have to do that. But that's what's so beautiful about relationship with him, is that he wants to. Like, he wants that companionship. He wants that relationship with each of us. We just have to be willing to do it. And I was just a willing vessel. And I couldn't even believe seeing witches coming to know Christ in one session. I mean, those were kind of the conversations and experiences I was having in 2020 that I, again, could have never, ever imagined I'd be sitting in. So thankful.
It's incredible. And it starts, like you said, I love that word you use, that prayer of God using you. Ask God to use us, give him permission to do whatever he wants with our life. Then the adventure truly begins. And it's just, I resonate so much with what you're sharing, because there's so much in my life that I would have never imagined if I had not said yes to God and let God take the wheel. You know, and be the lead of the, and that's not to say I don't make mistakes. I haven't gone the wrong direction. I haven't misheard. Right. I mean, there's all of that, right? The messy day-to-day of the Christian life, but it's always oriented towards Jesus Christ and trying to hear and respond to God and letting him lead us. And it's just the most incredible adventure to be on that path. EveryLife diaper is the fastest growing diaper company in America, in the world. I know the folks listening know about EveryLife because we talk about them often on the show. I use the product. Public Square, I want to hear about Public Square and it's being started. But I just think what just gets me so excited is you're talking about pregnancy center. You're talking about Sarah, you know, the early years of your marriage. Did you have any idea that you would be an entrepreneur, that you would start a you guys have raised tens of millions of dollars. You're making, revenue is, I know, going up. EveryLife is crushing it. It's the fastest growing company, diaper company and baby products company. Did you ever have any inkling of that before you started EveryLife or Public Square? Like a little premonition from God that I would be a businesswoman and my husband and I would be entrepreneurs? Was that part of the...
It's a great question. I mean, I studied business in school. I studied economics. And so I did have a passion for entrepreneurship and innovation really my whole life. I've always been kind of a dreamer. I've always kind of thought big and outside of the box. And actually being from the South, it's very opposite culturally. It's very much stay in tradition and
In your lane.
in your lane. I was kind of the black sheep that left. I think I'm actually really one of the only out of my friend group in high school that actually moved to California and built this different life, right? And so I've always had that in me, and my husband is exactly the same way. I mean, he's always been a dreamer. Has a huge passion just for life and thinking outside the box. And I think moving to California and being around a culture that does think a little bit bigger, it was really good for us to be around that. And so looking back, I can see how he was preparing us for this moment, but it still looked very different than what I would have ever planned for. And I've said that a few times on this show, and I'm sure many people have that story too, listening, that it's just when you follow God, you can try to make all these plans for yourself. And then he comes in and he blows it out of the park, which is the best part about going on this adventure with him, right?
I just have to interject, or they're about to have that experience.
Or they're about to.
If you're listening right now and you're like, this
now is your
so,
moment.
Say yes to God.
Do
Just
it.
say whatever you want, God.
What do you
Make
have
a
to
radical
lose?
submission to God and let him change your life.
Yeah.
Anyways, you were in the middle of a beautiful thought. So go back to your thought. But
yeah. And I would say it was during the 2019-2020 season that we were starting to see our hearts just shift, and we were really thinking ministry full time was going to be kind of the career move for us. But as we started to focus more on politics and culture and the pro-life movement, Michael started working for a marketing agency. So he's kind of getting some exposure in different sectors. And we also started praying specifically. I remember, God, would you sharpen the kind of the tools in our tool belt that you want us to use? Because there's a lot of different places we could have gone or different careers we could have pursued. And we actually found ourselves kind of saying, what's next for us? And again, there's a lot of different options, but we want to do the God thing. We don't want to just do the good thing. And it was then that we discovered that every pretty much major corporate America was not standing for pro-life, pro-family, godly principles and values. And COVID, I think, really highlighted that for us because many businesses were shutting down. You're seeing small businesses hurting, and then you're seeing the Amazons and the Targets of the world just, growing and growing and growing to degrees that is really saddening because from our perspective, we think small businesses are the backbone of society. They're really what make our country so special. And we started to kind of ache for these small businesses just right here in San Diego. And we also wanted to support those that were standing for our core convictions because we started to discover so many that weren't. And we created our own list in 2020 of all the places that we felt comfortable putting our dollars towards because we started to see that our purchasing powers really do make a difference, that money talks. Many people have heard that before, but I don't think that many stop and really assess what that means. And our purchasing decisions do have weight. They do have power. And actually, God really calls us to be good stewards of our wealth. He'll trust you with the little, and then he'll trust you with the more. And you see scripture about wealth actually multiple times in the Bible. And I think a lot of times it can just be a very mindless transaction. And I started to see in 2020, people started to actually realize that it matters where your money is going and that you could actually be endorsing the very thing that you stand against or stand for. And that list that we compiled in our own little home turned into something that we said, man, this actually would be really helpful for other people in San Diego who do care about shopping their values and making sure that their dollars are going to support these companies. And that's actually what birthed the idea of Public Square, which is EveryLife's parent company. And we launched it about 4 years ago. It's a marketplace where you can find businesses, 80,000 plus, that all stand for life, that stand for the family unit, that love liberty, that love the principles of godliness. And that way, when you go to this platform, you can know with a blessed assurance that every business on there, you don't have to wonder where your hard-earned money is going. It's going to align with the things that are actually making our country better and stronger. And so that really was the launching pad into the innovation, into the startup phase. And that's when I knew God was also causing me to pause to say, do I continue pursuing the Pregnancy Resource Center path? Because I was so passionate about the Pregnancy Resource Center ministry and the women I was meeting with, but I was also so passionate about what was happening in our little living room that Michael and I were kind of building on the side. And I had to make a decision. It was a crossroads, and I ended up jumping all in with Michael and starting to build Public Square.
All right, I have to ask, and this is what everybody asks about any kind of entrepreneurship. How? Because you're like creating, 80,000, this app that has a marketplace that has 80,000 like-minded businesses. And then EveryLife is creating a product company with all of the challenges of a product company that's now a global product company. And this is only 4 years old, or 5. Is it 5 now?
Yeah, it's 4 years old, 4.5 years old. And EveryLife has just celebrated our 2-year anniversary in July.
I like to hear about the how you can share, because I think a lot of people look at entrepreneurs and think, that's not me. I just can't do it because I don't come from independent wealth. My parents can't pay my bills, and therefore it's impossible for me to start a side hustle that can grow. I just can't do it. Or everybody's going to come into it with, or just, I don't have what it takes, or I don't know how, or whatever it is. Right.
Yep.
And so, when you guys were first starting out, is this something where you had like unlimited resources, the trust fund, and you're just like, we're going to figure it out, and everything's going to be,
not at all.
We're comfortable. It's just, we're going to figure it out as we go.
No, we were living off of very small salaries and in a very expensive environment in California. We came from the church sector, the nonprofit sector. And so, no, we were not in a place where financially it was an easy thing for us to jump into. Actually, that was the biggest hurdle, is how we have this grand idea, but one, are people going to like it? And two, we have to have the funding to be able to support building a technology company. That's essentially what we were doing. And Michael and I, we got the politics, and he especially had the marketing gifting for sure. And so we had different areas of strengths, but building a application is not something that we've ever done before. So I will say it's important that people know that, let's say you have this grand idea that feels like, okay, no one else is doing it. There's a hole in the market. This could be amazing. We had incredible mentors in our life that we ran this idea by. So we built a little pitch deck, and we had this vision of what we thought it was going to be. And we just started to have conversations with people that we trust and love that are years ahead of us, maybe in the marketing sector, the business sector, or the investment world, or all kinds of, we were very blessed with a lot of relationships that we could go to for support. And we had these conversations, the hard ones, the good ones, and everything in between, because we needed that feedback. We needed real time. Hey, is this a good idea? Would you do this? Would you invest in this? And over again, we just got yeses. We got yes after yes after yes. And we felt, again, we really couldn't say no, because one, we felt God was giving this idea to us, that it was an idea from him. And then our community around us was very supportive. Then it turned into really seeking out seed round of funding, right? So we had to be able to fund this idea. And Michael would do a much better job talking about this season because he spearheaded this. But I can tell you a story that I think is really significant, that I think got us to just where we are now. First, our very first hire, once we had our first round of funding complete, was a prayer coordinator. That was our very first role at Public Square. And I'm so thankful that and they're still with us today. She's still on our team.
Her role officially is
She's
prayer
just a
coordinator.
prayer. That's all she does, is just pray
She
for the
prays
company.
for the company.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, that's so cool.
So that was our first hire.
GTB, we have our weekly prayer, which I missed today, but thank you, Keely.
Yes, it's so important.
That's so awesome.
The power of prayer. And we just said, we got to start there. This isn't going to happen unless we have prayer. It's going to be impossible. This is an impossible dream. And usually too, when you are saying it feels impossible, is usually when it's a God idea too, when it's just so scary and feels so uncomfortable. That's usually the moment you should just be on the edge of your seat watching what God's going to do. And we felt that. We felt that anticipation. It was actually really exciting, scary, but exciting. And
scary, exciting, and uncomfortable.
All of it.
Yes.
All of it. So he met with this investor who's actually a very dear friend of ours. basically family. And it was funny. Michael came in the room. He had his pitch deck all ready to go. And he told him to put the computer away. And Michael's thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't even shared yet. And he's already saying no. Like, what have I done wrong? And he said to Michael, this strategy that you have played out here on this presentation, it's going to change 1,000 times. It's going to mold and shift. And what I want to know is what's your vision and what's your mission? Because if you can hold fast to what you want to see happen, then I will support this effort, because your strategy is going to change 1,000 times. And I think that was one of the best pieces of advice that Michael got. And I remember him telling me this story, and I hang on to it every day, that we have to hold so fast to the mission and the vision. And I know you are holding fast to the mission and the vision of Live Action and all that you're doing, but you want to hold loosely how you get there, because if we get so caught into our own ideas of what strategy looks like and how we implement certain pieces of our business and the formation of how it's all going to turn out, then we may miss an open door or a closed door because we're so stuck to what we think is the right way. But we're going to learn so many things that are going to change all of those things. But if you don't lose your mission and you don't lose the vision of what you want to see happen, that puts you in a really good place to succeed. And we've lived by that over and over and over again. If you pull up that pitch deck that we had 4 years ago and you look at who we are today, it's hard to even pull pieces that are the same. But the mission and the vision never changed. And so I'm really thankful for that advice that we got at the very beginning, because we made that be the main thing. And I think, you look at scripture too, right? Seek first his kingdom and everything else will be added to you. That's in Matthew. And it's kind of the same principle, like seek first God, seek first him, and keep that the main thing. And then everything else will be added. And it gave us so much peace as we went along this journey, and we kept just one step at a time, one day at a time, and just trusting that if we seek first him and we keep the mission, we keep the vision in lockstep with him, everything else will come. But it took a lot of faith, and it sounds glamorous and wonderful. And at times it was, and it is, we're still in it. We're still only 4 years old. We're not even close. We've barely even scratched the surface. We say all the time, we're just getting started. But I just think it's really important to remember that it took a lot of sacrifice. It took a lot of saying no to say yes to this business that we've built. And I wouldn't change it for anything, but it hasn't been easy. It's come with losing friendships and, all kinds of letting go of the comfortabilities of life, the comforts. We don't live like a lot of people do, and that's okay. We're not better than anybody else. We're just saying yes to what God has for us, and it just looks a little bit different. And I think we all have to be willing to accept that no matter what path God takes us on.
Yeah, I think the level of risk that you guys have taken on as a family, a young family, the level of public exposure, like you're now a publicly traded company.
That's right.
There's, I don't know if millions of shareholders, but there's shareholders you're responsible to. And then there's just public. It's public square, right?
Yeah.
But it's people's judgment. Anytime you put anything out into the world, I know this with the podcast, and this podcast is not perfect. And Live Action, we try very hard to be effective in reaching people, but we're going to, as we go, we're going to make mistakes or try to take advantage of opportunities and not do it the best way we could have, but then we learn the next time. The whole path is full of pivots and full of striving and learning, falling up, getting up again. I also love what you're talking about. What you started with is not where you are today, and where you're going is not going to be where you are today. Amazon started as a bookstore.
It's a perfect
which is so
example.
Crazy. And I was just one of my friends. He's an advisor for some of the work on the GTB side. So if there's Live Action, the nonprofit, and then there's GTB, which produces the podcast. But he's talking about his company, which also kind of an app tech company. What they started with is very different than what they're doing just 2 years later.
That's right.
Same mission, but very different product or offering and program. So I think that there's so much wisdom there to just, I think, not be afraid. Is really the foundational principle, and to be open. And trusting.
Yeah, one of my favorite, this is another Socrates quote, but you only live life once, but if you live it right, it's enough. So simple, but it's something to live by because we only have one shot at this life. That's it. And one of the things that almost plagues me and my husband every day is like, did we do enough today? And are we setting ourselves up to really leave a legacy behind us? And that's what drives us. I mean, Lily Gabel, my daughter, that's what, and Michael would say the same. She's what drives us. This new little girl on the way, the family that we're building, we're doing all of this because we want to live a life where we don't look back and say, man, I could have done this. Or if I just would have let go of that fear and that anxiety, I would have actually jumped into the boat and really gone places that, I wanted to go. I just didn't. And I think Michael and I, when we got married, we kind of put a line in the sand and just said, we're just going to go all in. And if it means epically failing, which we've failed over and over again, and we've fallen on our faces, but we're just going to get right back up and we're going to try again. And it's caused me to gain a lot of grit and a lot of drive that I had not. I've always been a determined person, but I'm in a different boat now than I ever have been because of the things that we've gone through. But I'm so thankful for it because I just know I'm going to look back and say, thank you, God, for letting us live this wild, crazy life. And I'm going to be able to say, I think we all want to be able to say that we did it right. We had one life and we gave it all that we had. And I hope that encourages somebody who's maybe feels like they're sitting on the sidelines a little bit. Like I'm watching all these other people take off and I'm just timid to jump into the boat and to go all in. It's like, do it. Just do it. Because what do we have to lose? We have one life. This is it. Let's leave the legacy that we want to leave behind us that outlasts our time here on earth. And that's what you're building. That's what we're trying to build. And the more believers that can do that, can you imagine what our society could look like if we just had more believers that were dreaming big and going after the things that God was putting on their heart? Oh, I can't imagine. We're just one example. I mean, there's so many Christians out there that I'm just encouraged to see what God is doing. And I think there's more that are going to come into the horizon here soon with new ideas, new strategies, because we need it. We're entering into very interesting times here. And we need all the believers all in, running after God with all their heart, mind, and soul.
I think what you guys have spearheaded is a renaissance of people who are building these new institutions, really. That's what it is in the business world, especially, who are proud of their identity as people of faith, people who are pro-life, people who are pro-marriage. And that 10 years ago would not have really been seen as a thing. It would have been weird. Like, what does it mean? Mm-hmm. But I think Michael pioneering and quite frankly, raising a lot of money behind this vision that then is now paying creators, helping support other businesses, helping build new businesses like EveryLife, all of this. It's helping build that very ecosystem that you envisioned. And again, the path is going to look different than the original path that was imagined, but that's part of the journey. And I see it happening right now in our culture. This is an exciting moment where people are now more proud than ever of faith, of family, of fighting for life. And we're still not there yet. The culture is very much struggling. We have, horrific, the evil of abortion, the sexual revolution, all of the pornography and breakdown of the family. So there's, gender identity confusion. So there's tremendous things to fight and to build in the midst of. But I think the willingness to dream big and build big, even with all of its challenges, is the opportunity. Right. I mean, if we have that willingness, we get to seize that opportunity. Okay, 2 questions for you. What has been the biggest failure that you can share? Especially curious with EveryLife, because that's our brand we love here, or challenge that you had to overcome. And then what's been the biggest breakthrough?
So with EveryLife, I do think it's worth sharing that the reason EveryLife is here today is because of our parent company, Public Square, and us discovering that our customers were literally searching for diaper companies. And we did not have one representative on our platform that stood for life, that stood for families, and stood for freedom. And at the same time, it became personal because Michael and I got pregnant with our first. And so we just started to look into the baby industry and was shocked, absolutely shocked. I didn't even think I'd need to look into diaper companies to see where they stood and where our money was going. And every single major diaper company was supporting abortion vocally or financially. So even with the public square ecosystem that we were building, we couldn't help our consumers find a diaper brand.
It's so insane, Sarah.
So it really broke my heart. And I actually hope more people let that break their heart. We said this earlier in the episode. We need, I think passive stances can be so harmful to society. I think we really need to feel the weight of some of these issues at hand, and the fact that these diaper brands that are literally making products for children do not believe in their life is so wrong. It's a horrible business model, firstly, but it's morally wrong. It doesn't add up. And so when we were discovering this, again, we had that moment of we can't sit on the sidelines and just be okay with this. We want a brand, even for our own child, that we're excited to go support. And that's really what caused EveryLife to exist and come into play. And I'm so thankful for another one of those light bulb moments, a hole in the market, to be able to serve families that are so passionate about shopping their values and getting quality and the performance that they need for their families with these products. This journey has been an incredible one. And, I honestly look back, Lila, over the last 2 years, and I have more kind of triumph stories with EveryLife.
It has been a lot of triumph.
I
mean,
really,
it's like, what's been the biggest failure? Like, thanks be to God, it's crushing it.
No, well, there's struggles. There's struggles, absolutely. Just like, but they're more personal, right?
Of course,
It's more the moments where I feel like I'm failing at being the best leader of the company while also trying to still be the best mom and wife. It's those moments, those tension points where you're just wrestling with.
How do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's not easy.
And it's interesting you say that, because I relate to that a lot as a mom entrepreneur. People say, what's your biggest challenges? It's making sure that I prioritize properly and making sure that work doesn't eat into my children.
Exactly.
Because they're first.
That's right.
How do you do that?
Yeah, I'd actually love to hear your answer too. But I would say, one of the things that's been really effective is I try to bring my daughter, Lily Gabel, into as much as I can. And I think a lot of times we can kind of segment our life, right? It's like, over here is business, over here is family, over here is church. But really, like, God should be a part of every bucket of our life. And I think we've decided, my husband and I, that because we're kind of a family on mission, we're building this ecosystem together, that we don't want to have Lily Gabel kind of just be on the sidelines over here. We just want to bring her in with us every chance we can. And she's been on 90 plus flights with me. She's traveled the world. I try to get her in the meetings with my team and just have her present as much as I can. So it feels like, again, she's a part of this, because she is my why. She is why I do what I do. And she's not a setback. She's actually my greatest strength is her, because she motivates me and she makes me better and stronger. And she gives me more ideas. I mean, really, this idea of EveryLife came from really us getting pregnant with her. I mean, I think a lot of times culture likes to say, right, that kids are just going to set you back and they're going to steal your dreams and your goals and your desires. My story is the complete opposite. My child literally made me dream so big so I could create something for her that, one, was good for her body, that celebrated her. It was a great product. But it's more than that, right? We're not just a diaper company. We're really working hard to shift culture to one that celebrates every miraculous life. And so, to going back to your question, I would say the way that I've tried to go about that challenge is just bringing her in when I can and just having a lot of grace and patience. I've been tested in the patience department of just being, okay with this is challenging right now. And I need to just take a second and realize that I'm a little overwhelmed, and I need to accept that feeling. And then let me figure out what I need to do to either move forward with focusing on this maybe problem that I have in the business, or I'm just going to put it to bed for a second, put it on the shelf, and I have to prioritize my child right now. And it's a moment of contact switching very often. But I think when God gives you the grace to do something, he's going to help you right through those moments of discernment. And I've really leaned on being dependent on him in those moments where I feel the tension.
It's so good. And to know that God's not going to call us to something that we can't do with his grace. I mean,
Right.
if it's meant to be, it will be with his grace. And he's not going to make us sacrifice something that we're never to sacrifice, like our own marriage, our children, our faith, our morals, whatever it is in any kind of path. But it requires really leaning and listening and those acts of surrender that we were talking about earlier. Okay, biggest breakthrough with EveryLife. Did you think you'd get this big this fast?
I didn't, but I think one of our biggest breakthrough moments was when we did our big Make More Babies campaign pretty shortly after we launched. God was really highlighting the birth rate issue, which I know you talk about often, and we're really passionate as a team at EveryLife. The fact that we're seeing, 1.6 babies per woman is really concerning. We should be paying attention to it. We need that replacement rate to be at 2.1 babies per woman. And it was becoming really clear right after we launched that we have an opportunity to share about this issue, this overpopulation control ideology that's plaguing so many young people today. I mean, the fact that 23% of people in their childbearing years are saying that they are considering not having children because of their concerns of how a child would bring too many carbon emissions into the world is a threat to our society, and that we're overpopulated. We have too many people. I mean, almost 50%, according to a UN study, would say that they think that we have too many people here on this earth. And that's just not true. I mean, we have more people that are aging out than coming into the world. And so we started to see, man, there's an opportunity to talk about this in a different angle and highlight that their children are not a burden. They're a blessing, and we need more of them, not less. We don't need less people in this world. And when we did this campaign in Times Square, we put up just a simple message: make more babies, because that's what we believe at EveryLife. We think, find God, get married, and make babies. Like that is so clear in scripture. He calls us to be fruitful and to multiply the earth. And we put that simple quote up there. And also Elon Musk himself has actually been a big proponent of, repopulation. And he said having children, saving the world. And I have a lot of, disagreements with Elon Musk, but I agree with that statement. Having children.
Like, Elon, find God, get married, and then have the baby.
There's an order.
Trust me, Elon, it's going to be best for you and for everybody else, including those precious babies.
I know.
But every one of his babies, and every baby, no matter how they're brought into the world, whether it's, premarital sex, whether it's IVF, no matter how a child is brought into the world, is a gift from God, is a divine gift, and is willed and loved by God himself. So we can celebrate every baby, no matter the circumstances of how they were brought into the world.
Absolutely.
We can still encourage people, like, God's plan is the best plan here for your sake and the child's sake, but let's celebrate EveryLife.
That's right. And so we put his tweet up on a billboard and it went viral. I mean, Elon Musk himself retweeted it. I mean, he is one of the most influential men in the world. And so him backing this pro-life diaper company, I mean, I couldn't believe it, truly. And I think that really got us on the map to be able, again, to show that we're providing these incredible products for parents that people are raving about. I mean, it's healing diaper rash, and it's causing people to sleep better at night because the 12-hour leak protection actually works. Like, it's an incredible product. I mean, I even said to Michael, I'm like, we're not going to create a product that we would not be proud to put on our own baby. So we spent a lot of time thinking through the ingredients and the crafting of the diaper itself and all the products that we have now. But more than that, we're standing for parenthood. We're standing for life, and we're trying to create a movement, and we're all trying to create a movement here that is unapologetically for every miraculous life. And that was a really incredible season where I've just found our company built so much momentum, again, got us into the mainstream and allowed people to see that, yes, we have the product, but we have this values component that sets us apart. There's no other diaper brand that is saying the things that we're saying and is donating. We've now been able to give out over 6 million diapers to families who have chosen life for their babies.
I know the live action community loves.
And we're so thankful.
Donating EveryLife diapers to pregnancy centers.
Thank you. Well, y'all are a part of that 6 million.
It's amazing.
Thank you, because we wouldn't be there if it wasn't for your community that is so passionate, right, about helping that mom and dad with the essentials. And so many parents, I think we can look at diapers and think, is that really going to make a dent in somebody's life when they're in that situation where they're struggling? The answer is it absolutely can. Actually 60% of people would say if they just had the resources and the practical essentials that they needed for parenthood, they would keep their baby. They just need a vision. They need the hope. They need the practical. And the fact that we get to come in with a product that's very simple. It's diapers and wipes, but every parent needs it. And it stands for something so special. Every package and wipe, as soon as you open it, there's a Bible verse on it that says, every good and perfect gift is from above. And it just reminds us of the gift that God has given us, to not take it lightly. And even when you're changing that diaper, it's a moment to reflect on the goodness of God and that gift right in front of you, to not take it lightly and to have a heart of gratitude, because I think a lot of times we can get tired as parents and forget that, man, this is the greatest privilege, as being a mom, as being a dad. I mean, it's the greatest role one could ever have, in my opinion. And it deserves all of our attention and time. And I just want more people to see it that way. So we're trying really hard to do it. And it's been a beautiful moment. And that was a very big triumph moment for us when we had success in that campaign, to really see the ripple effect and the open doors that came after that. And again, I feel like there's so much more to come. The best is
You're
yet to
just
come.
getting started, Sarah.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. I have to ask, because I think a lot of people are inspired by your story. I am. But if someone's listening, they think, okay, maybe I don't know if I would be able to start a publicly traded company, or I don't even know if that's in my heart, but I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start a side hustle, maybe to bring in more revenue for my family, or explore some gifts or visions or dreams that I have. What would your advice be?
My first piece of advice would be to stop and pray, because I do think that even starting a little side hustle as a mom, I think is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And I think the lie that you can't be a mom and have a career too is absurd. And I think it's very degrading and offensive, actually, to women, because we can. It is possible.
And we have throughout human history.
And exactly.
So it is trad.
Yes.
To
there
work.
You go. So let's remember that,
Yes.
right? But at the same time, it doesn't mean that path is for everybody. And I think that if you're going to embrace even a side hustle or a full-time career and be a mom, it has to be, and we've talked a lot about God on the show, but it has to be driven through obedience from God, because you're sacrificing a lot when you decide to do career and mom. I think it adds extra challenges at times between the family unit that you just have to be ready to embrace. And you just have to assess that question. And I do wish that our society, while they need to be saying you can do both because it is possible, I also think we could do a better job of not creating this mindset from a very early age that you have to have some career. What if you do want to be a mom full time? That's your career. That is a career.
That is a
full-time job.
Yes.
And I actually, instead of saying stay-at-home mom, I say you're a full-time mom, because you're full-time working, taking care of the most precious thing right in front of you. Like that should be celebrated. That should be rewarded.
And a quick sidebar, a big part of that is household management. Childcare is obviously crucial and key. Your baby needs care 24/7. But it's also household management. And I think some women have the desire and the gifting and the ability, and it kind of works, that I am the full-time household manager. I don't want to make money a different way and then delegate pieces of my household out. I want to do it.
That's right.
And they thrive at doing it. And that's an incredible job, vocational work, and it's beautiful. But that's also not every woman's approach, and that's totally fine too.
That's right. I think it's an acceptance of what, again, has God put on your heart and where your gifting is going to come alive. What is he calling you into? Because I know for me, I did have this career-minded track. I didn't have many people tell me at 15 years old, do you want to be a mom one day? I mean, I don't know if you got that question in your community, but like that just wasn't a conversation. It was, what college are you going to go to? What are you going to study?
It isn't elevated the way that it should be in our society.
Absolutely.
As as a goal for most women. Not every woman is going to be a biological mother because not
Right.
everyone will marry, but for most women. And I think what you're saying, I think folks on the show, I think this community largely agrees, because it is, every woman is going to have a different path with this, and we have to listen to what God's call is. But if someone's listening and they think, okay, I think God is calling me to a side hustle in part just to contribute to my family, but I have this idea and I don't want to make it necessarily this full-time career,
Yep.
but it's something that I want to build one step at a time. Pray is obviously a key starting place.
Great starting place. And then, it's the conversation we were having earlier of having no fear. I mean, when God gives you this idea and you feel a yes from him after you prayed about it, and your husband's in alignment and you're ready to go, I mean, have no fear and seek out counsel. I mentioned that was a really big part of our journey too, of just getting wisdom and advice from people who have gone before us and have been mentors to us. I think that's really important anytime you're trying something new, to get that advice and guidance. And, I would say it's an exciting journey, and you can do it, and it's a beautiful thing. And, don't hold back, give it your all. Have grace for yourself, because you're going to learn a lot along the way. And there's going to be moments where you do feel like you're failing and you're kind of on your face, but actually it's in those moments usually when you're kind of on your face and feel like you're failing when you get some of the best ideas actually, right? Because you're just kind of at that breaking point. And sometimes actually that's a really good place to be in.
Well, I think what you're saying, like underpinning all of that, is just perseverance. Just keep trying.
Yeah.
Like every day, do one more thing for this idea.
That's right.
Make one more phone call, send one more email, have one more conversation, do one more bit of research, one more bit of study, whatever it is. Like just keep trying. Like when I started Live Action, I had no idea what I was doing. I just started reading, assessing, talking to people. One step leads to the next. Do you have any tips for finding mentorship or counsel from people? Things that you might have done early on to find a mentor, or even just books that you recommend, anything that might be starting places for folks?
Yeah, I mentioned, we were a part of the JH Ranch community, and I had some incredible married couples that I still go back today. And actually, I think that can be one of the best places to start. And maybe not even finding an expert in the field of the idea that you're looking to pursue, but just finding a solid married couple, maybe in your church or in your neighborhood, and watch them do life. Watch them go about having a career, because actually I think of this one couple that actually married us, and they both were on mission together, and they were both working. They had 3 kids. And I just remember watching them thinking, I want to be like them one day. Like this is it. Like if you say goals, like goals, family goals right there, right in front of me. And I was 22 years old, just getting to observe and see how they dialogued about different components of their life and how they brought their kids in moments where they could. And they also had moments of tension, and they actually let me come in and watch that. And I actually hope at some point soon, we're new to Florida and we've only been there for 2 years, but I feel like, one part of our mission at some point will be, I would love to be that to somebody else, because I had that in my life. And
You're going to get people in the comment section, Sarah, adopt me. She's just got to move to Florida,
I guess I should be careful what I wish for. But it really helped me have the perspective and the picture, the vision. Like I needed
the model.
And I got to see it. So, I mean, man, if you can find that, that's such a great place to start.
I love that. And if you're having trouble finding it, pray.
There you go.
Like go back. It always comes back to prayer.
I know, but
it sure does.
It's powerful.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
What's next for you, Sarah? Besides most importantly, delivering this little girly.
I'm really excited about this next chapter. It's going to be different. We've had one baby, she's 2, and we've loved being a family of 3, but I am most excited in this next chapter to be a family of 4 and welcome another girl into the world and actually go back to the newborn days, the snuggles, the quiet time. I'm still going to be involved with EveryLife, but I'm going to take some time to tend to this new little life that I get to cherish and hold. And I'm not going to take it lightly, and I'm going to soak in every single second that I can. And I'm actually really looking forward to it. And I think that's another really big piece. And I wish we had more time to talk, but there's so much in that postpartum season that, I hear all the time people struggle with. And I had struggles in my first season of postpartum with my first, because there's so much unknown. Right. But it goes back to a culture that does start preparing people more for motherhood and that season. Because I think if we did that better and we talked about these topics more,
made it more familiar and comfortable,
there wouldn't be so much tension and
angst.
Yeah. So I'm thankful doing it a second time, because I've done it once before. I know some of the challenges that I felt, and I'm excited to see God just kind of work me really rely on God and work with him through that time of stillness. I think one of the hardest things for me is just being still, as you can imagine. I go, move, but it's actually really sacred to just like sit and be still and know that he's God and hold that little life. And I'm ready for that. So that's what's next, right around the corner, technically any day now. And then, with EveryLife, we're going to keep growing. We want to be a household name.
You will be, Sarah.
Thank you. I believe it.
I'm so excited for that. It also gives me chills again, but I'm so excited for that for you.
Yeah. I really believe in what we're building. I wouldn't do it if we didn't. And I think we have an opportunity to be a business that's for profit, that is standing for life. And the more businesses that can do that, the stronger our country will be. And I'm excited to keep building that culture, building more products, and making EveryLife a place where every family can go to get all the essentials they need for their baby and beyond. And that's where we're headed. And we're going to keep serving our nonprofit partners. That's a huge part of what we do. And many people probably don't know that, because we're a direct to consumer business, but we have over 1,000 nonprofits, pregnancy centers, the Live Actions, the other organizations that we get to work with to help supply these products to moms and dads who need them. So I'm excited to grow that and really build more relationships in that sector. And it's an exciting time.
I'm so proud of you and excited for what you're building. And thank you for everything that you've done for the movement and for being you. And where can people find you?
That's a good question. EveryLife Co. on Instagram. We also have a Twitter. Go to everylife.com if you want to just learn more about our mission and our products. And then I do have a little social media, Sarah Gabel on Instagram.
The Sarah Gabel coaching and mentorship brand is coming at some point. We don't know when, but it's happening right now.
Goodness. So yeah, I would be grateful for anybody that wants to jump in. And thank you, Lila, for your support, having me on the show. And again, you've been a huge piece of my journey. And you were one of those mentors from afar. I didn't get to sit and watch you live your life,
God.
but man, thank you for your yes, because it allowed me to learn and grow so much in that pivotal time in my life.
Praise God. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Lila Rose Show. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check out EveryLife. I am passionate about them because not only are they a pro-life company, but they're an amazing product. Check them out. Also, make sure to follow Sarah. I was actually telling her after this show that she should, if she feels so called and has the time, spend more time sharing about her entrepreneurial journey. I think a lot of us, including myself, would be interested in what she is up to. Make sure also you're subscribed to this show so you don't miss future episodes, and we'll see you all next time. A huge thank you to our partner, EWTN, the largest religious broadcaster in the entire world. EWTN is reaching millions of people every single day with the beautiful truth of the gospel. You can watch new episodes of The Lila Rose Show 24 hours before they hit podcast app over at EWTN.com/on-demand.